Good Mom and Monday.
You're here with the Mistake Mama podcast. I'm Kaylee.
And I'm Mandee.
And we are your hosts. Extra apologies for voices.
Coughing.
Yes.
Nasally.
If I sound scratchy, I am.
That is accurate.
The pollen level is still crazy. It's actually last week's podcast we recorded yesterday. So the 1301, what was today's? Did you look it up?
I did not.
Oh, or yesterday's.
I did not.
You did? Okay. Well, it's probably still really high.
Probably.
So yeah, we're still suffering from the...
Still suffering. I feel a constant burn right here.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Like I'm going to sneeze.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. So apologies on that. So if we sound less than pleasant today, apologies.
Sorry.
A million of them. Just, yeah. Anyways.
Yep.
Today we're going to be talking about nope. A partridge in a pear tree. Today we're going to be talking about partner contribution in parenting.
Yes.
But first, wins, fails, books.
Yes. My win and fail are actually from yesterday.
Okay.
I went to Walmart because I had to get gifts for Ellie's birthday. Mm-hmm. And there were some squirt guns on rollback.
Okay.
So I got squirt guns. We had a lot of fun in the backyard. We were playing with the squirt guns, but holy moly, was that a bad idea for my allergies?
Oh, man.
Oh, I was like, I can't see. Like, I was done for.
Oh, no.
But it was a lot of fun while we were out there.
It sounds fun.
Yeah, it was a lot of fun.
Great.
Maverick just figured out how to use water guns when we were at his other cousins the other weekend, something like that. Mm-hmm. And so I was like, I'm gonna buy them for him. I think it was like $8 for the two little ones.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, they weren't that bad.
That's awesome.
But then my allergies were like, you shouldn't have done that.
That's fun.
Mm-hmm. What about you?
My fail is, so Ellie's birthday party is tomorrow. She doesn't turn one for a week, but I kept putting off buying her a gift, not on purpose.
Right.
I just kind of kept forgetting about it.
I understand that.
Which, if you listened to last week's podcast, we talk a lot about like presents and birthdays and stuff.
Yes.
Well, I bought her gift, but it doesn't get here till Monday. So
she's getting it on her actual birthday.
Yeah. Well, we'll probably just give it to her Monday, the day that it comes, versus waiting a couple more days. Because the Monday's the 12th, and her birthday's not till the 16th.
Oh, right.
So versus leaving it in a box.
That's true.
We'll just give it to her that day.
What'd you guys end up getting her?
We got her a little ball pit.
Oh, that'll be a lot of fun.
It's like one of those foam ones versus just like the netting ones, because we used to have a netting one, but that ripped so easily. And so ours is a memory foam one that has like, and then a bunch of balls.
We thought about getting Maverick a ball pit, and Michael was like, I'm not having 200 balls just loose around the house.
Oh, we have 300.
Oh, God.
Because it was the one, I didn't like the really bright balls, because I figured if they're going to get thrown around my house, I can't do all that color.
The chaos.
So I did, they're like muted. And so I can do the muted.
Yeah.
But my options in that specific one were bags of 150, and the specific ball pit that we have, it said you need 250 to even fill it halfway.
Oh, gotcha.
So I just got 2 bags of 150. And we figured we'll do the 150, and then if we still would like a little bit more, we can.
Right. And it might be good if you lose some of them or something, then you have them. Yeah.
Yep, which is inevitable.
With kids.
Yeah. Where will we lose them in our small 2-bedroom apartment? I have no idea.
But they will be gone.
And
never found again.
Never found again.
Until you move out.
Yep. And it's since it's memory foam, it's foldable. And so we think we can just like shove it right under our couch when we're not using it. So it's just out of sight, out of mind.
That'll be nice.
And then the balls are probably just put up in our laundry area.
That'll be a good idea.
Yeah. So that doesn't come till Monday. That's my fail.
Okay.
It's also kind of my win. I got her a present.
Right. Yeah. There you go.
I remembered before her birthday.
Yes.
And it technically gets there before her birthday, just not before her party.
Right.
And the fail is that it's not before her party.
Right.
But she'll get to enjoy the clothes and the stuff that she gets from other people.
Right.
Because it's the only way that I was willing to get her.
Yeah.
Because I was looking through everything. I'm like,
she doesn't need this. She doesn't need this.
No.
Yeah.
I've had that, didn't like that.
Right. Yeah, that's the struggle.
Yep. Third kid, second girl. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Once you've had a boy and a girl, the third kid is just kind of like, oh, well, shit.
Take me down.
Yeah. And that's one reason why I'm actually kind of glad that their birthdays do not fall correctly in terms of like, because she doesn't fit half of Anna's stuff for the correct season. So most of her clothing is not hand-me-downs.
Right. That's true.
Mm-hmm. She does have like some that like I kept because I loved them, like some sweaters and stuff that I was just like, I was obsessed with this on Anna. I'm putting it on you.
Right. Even if we have to stay in the house and the AC is on high.
Exactly.
You're wearing it.
Yep.
I get that. So what book you reading? We recorded yesterday.
It's going to be the same as last week. Still kind of, still reading Fourth Wing.
Yep.
Still reading the 5th book of A Court of Thorns and Roses. Still reading those books by George Orwell.
Yep. So. And I'm still reading the second Crescent City book.
Yep.
Which I probably would be anyway if we recorded this next week.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, no change there.
Nope.
So I think we can just jump right into the episode.
I think so.
Cool. Partner contributions.
Partner contribution.
This one may be a little controversial.
Right.
So just bear in mind, this is just our experiences and our preferences, and other people's dynamics may not fall in line with what ours is and what our preferences are.
Right.
Whatever works for you, cool beans.
And this is also the opinion from 2 stay-at-home moms.
Yes. And so our
it's going to be different.
Exactly.
Yeah. Than like a working mom or a single household or whatever.
Mm-hmm. So keep that in mind as you listen through. And if we make a statement in our opinion and that differs from yours, that does not necessarily mean that we flat out disagree with what you're doing or we think you're wrong.
Right.
Or whatever. It just means that
it's just what we're going through.
What we're going through and what does or does not work for us. But if it works for you and you're happy with your situation, fantastic.
Keep doing it.
If you're not happy with your situation, however, seek a therapist.
Seek some help. We are not a therapist.
No. Mm-mm.
Couldn't do it.
Nope. Okay. So, how to start this one?
I don't know. That's a good question.
Have you noticed a big difference in Michael's contribution over the years, or has it been pretty consistent?
I feel like I kind of lucked out with him because he is almost more of a clean freak than I am. And so he's always been helpful. I've never had the, oh, well, he just never cleans the house. He never does anything. He never wants to do the dishes, never wants to, he's always been contributing. I will say since having kids, he almost takes it to an extreme because mess to him is just chaotic. So if the kids have the toys out and they are not actively playing with every single one that's on the floor, he's like, this must be cleaned up.
I have experienced this.
Oh, and so that kind of drives me nuts because I'm a little bit more laid back. At times I would say he's more of a cleaner than I am.
Okay.
I think I'm more of a detailed cleaner, whereas he's like let's get all the surface stuff out of my line of sight.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. But for the most part, he's really helpful. Thankfully.
That's good.
Not to say we don't argue about things.
Oh, yeah.
Around the house. But yeah, I think I lucked out there. What about you?
So I've definitely noticed that there have been transitions over the years. Me and Thomas have been living together. I was 17, so I'm going on 8 years now.
Okay.
In July, it'll be 8 years. We've been living in our own home closer to about 7 years.
Right.
Because we lived with his mom, or I guess in November, it'll be 8 years then for when we've been living together, because there was only a few months where we weren't actually living just ourselves.
Okay.
So November to be 8 years. And when we first started living together, we kind of became hoarders, right? I've mentioned this a little bit. We held on to everything that was given to us, and it kind of became chaotic. It would kind of get to the point where like I would clean something and then it would almost immediately be mess. Thomas's mom, though, I'm gonna dog on her. I don't like her. And I'm open about that. She taught him that the wife is supposed to do everything. And so I had to train this man to not have that mindset. Right. Because that is what it was. And he had an apartment prior to us living together because I wasn't 18 yet. And it was just a small apartment. He didn't have a lot. And so there wasn't really anything to get dirty. Yeah. And he didn't originally like push for me to clean his stuff while I was over there. It was kind of like a both of us thing. Right. And when he would come over to my house, I was the one who primarily did the chores in my house. I was the one who primarily cleaned. And he would help me with that. And that was because I had a very toxic stepdad at the time. Right. And so when we were finally living together, he was like, oh, well, now I have this person, this female living here. She's supposed to do everything. So I was responsible for literally everything. Got you. Despite not wanting to. Right. Before all of you women out there being like, throw the man away. I saved him.
We corrected the issue.
Yes. He is no longer that way. He still struggles a little bit with remembering that he has specific responsibilities, whereas I'm the one who takes on the responsibility of divvying. And so I have to be like, all right, you're the one responsible for dishes. Let's get them done so that I don't end up having to do them because I do everything else around here. Right. And so that is something that, you know, we actively struggle with and are working on. And his contribution is significantly less, but he does have specific tasks that are 100% his responsibility. If I have to do it, it is a ding, I guess, on him. And he takes responsibility for the, oh man, I didn't do that and you had to do it. Right. And so I don't know if I feel like an asshole. Do I sound like an asshole right now?
Not at all.
Feel like I do. I'm like, oh yeah, my husband didn't do his chores. Bad on you.
No, not at all.
I kind of feel
I don't think way. It's like it's not like you're putting, like, you don't get a gold star today kind of a thing. It's kind of just like you didn't do it, so I'm upset because that is your chore and I had to do it because you didn't do it. Yeah. I feel like that's a common thing. I don't know how many times now all I can think about is like the TikToks that you see where it's like, my wife said, hey, can you do this in a minute? And the guy like immediately gets up and runs because she means right now kind of a thing.
Yeah. My very first viral TikTok video was about partner contribution. If anyone's been following me on TikTok for forever, it was nowhere near viral compared to what actually went viral with the 34 million or whatever, but it had like 800K. That was like, it was decent.
That's a lot to me.
It's not a lot to me anymore, but it was.
Right, yeah.
And it basically was like, you know, how come a lot of men think that it's the woman's responsibility to do everything? It was kind of a question. And it had a lot of mixed feedback. Yeah. Because there are a lot of different opinions. There are people who have that traditional mindset of the woman does do all of the housework and the woman does like 99% of the parenting. And because the man works, he should be able to come home and relax and not do anything else. Right. And then they're on the absolute flip side of that, or I guess not a total flip, but whatever. When the man comes home, and this is talking about stay-at-home moms specifically, right? With working relationships, it's going to be maybe a little bit different. But with the woman being a stay-at-home mom and the man leaving and working, you know, he comes home and then he does contribute, but contribute. Yeah. evenly. Once he comes home, they're both equally on the clock.
Right.
You know, and then kind of going back to that first point of view of like, oh, well, if she's the woman, she's staying home. That still seems to be the case, even if the woman is working, for people that have that point of view.
Right.
That when she comes home, she's still the one who does the cooking, the cleaning,
right.
the childbearing, and so on and so forth.
I always
rearing,
think,
not bearing.
Well, both.
Bearing too,
Yeah.
but rearing is
right.
the word that I was thinking of.
I always think it's strange how, like, yes, the man is going out to do the physical work, but the woman who's staying home with the kids is still doing the work, just with the kids in the home. And I'm totally okay with that. I don't mind when it's just me and the kids. Like, I'm not just going to not do anything around the house. So I feel like I do more of my share at times when I'm home alone with the kids, but it's also like, what else, you know? I don't know if that's making any sense.
I feel like for the audience's sake, you should probably say a bit more, but I know what you're trying to say.
It just feels like, okay, so I'm home with the kids, so I'm obviously going to be doing the extra things. If I see the laundry needs to be done, I'm doing the laundry. If the dishes need to be done, I'm doing the dishes. If the vacuuming needs to be done, I'm doing that. So when he gets home, there might not be hardly anything for him to do chore-wise, unless there's specific things that I'm like, hey, I didn't get to this. Could you take that over or whatever? Or on the days off, like he does a lot more on his days off. I also, because I feel like Michael contributes so much, I don't get that like, oh, I have to do it all kind of a thing.
Okay.
You know what I mean?
That makes sense.
There's moments where I feel like I'm doing more of the parenting.
And I think that's a big conversation in and of itself,
right.
Which we should probably get to that
at some
point here in this episode.
Yeah, I think so. Because for me, at least in our household, the problem doesn't seem to be who's doing the most chores or who's slacking on the chores. It's more so like who's taking over the parenting role. The like, what's the term? The default parent.
Oh, okay.
Like who's becoming the default parent, where a lot of times I feel like that's me. And Michael and I have been really working on that because I don't always want to be the one that's making all the decisions and making all the schedules and the kids only ever run to me. And I know that it has a lot to do with the fact that I am a stay-at-home mom. And so they're home with me more than they're just home with him. So I get it, but I still don't think it's okay, you know?
Yeah. It's funny because like me and Thomas actually have the opposite problem. We are both more actively in parenting. That has not always been that way though. I used to be 100% the default parent.
Yeah.
He would do like next to nothing. For those of you listening, I just
she's whipping him.
God, I sound like an asshole.
You don't.
I feel like I do a little bit.
I mean, I know you, so I don't think you...
Yeah.
You're not meaning it like you're over here, like, beating your husband into shape. Like,
yeah. Our struggle lies currently in more him remembering to do his household contribution and his responsibilities. But it used to be a really big thing with the parenting.
Yeah.
And that was a very major turning point in our relationship, is when he started taking on more of the parenting responsibilities, because I got to a point where I just couldn't do it anymore. Being the default parent 100%, even when he was home.
Yeah, I think Michael's definitely doing a lot better. I'm not saying he doesn't parent his kids, because he does. But it just, there for a while, it seemed like it was always kind of a, well, this is going on. And then it was a look to mom. Like,
yeah.
So what do I do now? And I also understand that he was not around young kids or babies growing up. So this is his, what's the term?
Is it the first time?
I guess.
I feel like that's not the word you're looking for.
That's not the word I'm looking for.
I know what you're trying to
like,
say.
It's his introduction.
Okay.
to kids. Is his own kids.
Yeah.
So he always looks to me to be like, what do I do? Because I have that experience. And I think now he's getting to the point where, I mean, his son is now 2.5. He's had more experience, and now he's a lot more comfortable with the toddler stage. He handles that, I think, almost better than I do, because he's able to just go with the kids, whereas I'm like, slow down. You're driving me crazy. But the baby stage was hard for him, especially because, at least for me, we breastfeed and you. And so I think he always thinks, well, the fix is
milk. It's not always that.
Yeah. Or he knows that I can calm her down.
Sometimes, though.
I think he could too.
Yeah.
But I think it's just, and sometimes I catch myself doing it too. Like, she'll be fussy in his arms and I'm like, oh, just give her to me. I'll get her to calm down in like 2 seconds.
Yeah. And then it's always a little heartbreaking when they push against you and are, no.
Yeah.
And you're like, but I'm mom.
But I'm the fixer.
Exactly.
Yeah. But I think that's where the hard part comes in for us. Is I just want him to be able to take over that for me sometimes, which he does. But I'm just explaining some problems that have happened. We're not like having major problems or anything, but that's one thing that comes to mind, is that it's not always, or it seems to always be, here, you take the baby, she's crying.
Yeah.
Versus, oh, let me try to do these 5 different things to see if I can make her happy.
And it definitely feels a little bit like we're dogging on our husbands.
That's why I'm like, I'm not.
At the same time, though, kind of like with our social media episode that we did, things get glamorized. Oh, these perfect marriages, perfect relationships. He's the perfect dad. It's like, no, honey, y'all all got problems.
Right.
You're just not talking about it.
Right.
And so it does feel a little uncomfortable.
It does.
So I'm like, oh, I'm just ratting on my husband here. But at the same time, it's like, I'm not a perfect parent.
Right. No.
I mess up a lot.
Which we will have a whole episode on that.
Yes, we will.
I think next week's episode.
Yes.
We talk about all that. So we will dog on ourselves next week.
Yeah. This week's for the man.
This week's for our husbands.
Next week we'll be on our own chopping block there.
Yeah, exactly. Because I do think it's hard, and even though I have experience with other kids, I'm still not. I never have experience with my kids until now. I'm experiencing everything for the first time.
Yeah. And then there's always the whole, well, you're better at it. Like, I had to learn.
Trial and error.
Yeah. And I mean, is there a genetic, like, are we predispositioned for parenting? Maybe. I don't,
Yeah, I don't know.
I guess possibly. I know that, like, our brains chemically change when we have our babies.
Right.
But I know that, but there are people out there who have never been pregnant and are parents, like, by adoption or whatever, and are still really good at it. Right. So it's kind of one of those things that's like, I don't like using the whole, oh, well, we're better at it because naturally we just are, when that's, not always the case.
Right, yeah.
And I don't think that it should be an excuse for the other parent. And I mean, we're saying men because we specifically have husbands, but this can also be in same-sex relationships. Right. As well.
We just don't have any experience with that.
We have no experience with that, so that's probably not what we're going to be mentioning here, but that it's not exclusive. Yeah, it's not exclusive to this situation. This is just all that we've got.
Because I do like the traditional role of the mom, the wife, makes the house a home, and the husband is like the protector, the bringing home the bacon. What's the term I'm looking for?
I know what you mean. The homemaker?
Provider.
Or no, we're the homemaker.
Provider.
He's the breadwinner.
Breadwinner, provider, protection. Like, my husband makes me feel safe. And I was talking to him a couple weeks ago, and I said the one thing that I wanted in a husband, and the idea of a husband to me, like, growing up, was always safety, protection, comfort, like somebody that I can always go to. And he is those things.
Yeah.
And so, and I enjoy making the house a home.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy being the one who decorates. I enjoy the one who, plans out our days. I enjoy, getting the kids dressed in the morning. Like, I enjoy those things. It's just sometimes it's overwhelming because my brain is always going.
Yeah, I feel the exact same way.
Mm-hmm.
My husband is the same. He's our breadwinner, and I'm the homemaker. Though if my author thing takes off, that might flop right there.
Switch.
We'll see. And I mean, I wouldn't mind being the breadwinner if it was for something that I loved.
Mm-hmm.
He doesn't just get to be bachelor if, I end up making all the money because I'm, being a writer and stuff. Because at that point, then I would be a working at home mom, which I consider myself now anyways because I do a lot.
Right.
In addition to, parenting. I'm also writing a good portion of my time, And so, and that's kind of like where the parenting contribution thing comes in too, is because even at nighttime, I'm a parent.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where right now our biggest struggle is.
Mm-hmm.
I think it was yesterday morning. I got up pretty early and I was writing, and I was in the kitchen writing, and Damon had woke up and was sitting next to me. I think Anna was still asleep, and Ellie was asleep in our room with Thomas. Ellie woke up and started crying, and I was like, okay, Thomas is right there. Mm-hmm. She cried for a half an hour.
Oh.
She was fine.
Right.
And I, had she been truly angry, I would have gone in there. But I was just waiting. And it was kind of like a mix between like a cry and a,
kind of like a, I'm trying to get your attention.
Yeah.
But
and
I'm
it was
not
only like
pissed off yet.
Yeah. So I don't know if I'd necessarily say she was crying for 30 minutes, but she was making noise for 30 minutes.
Yeah.
Towards the end, when I finally gave up, I actually did go in there and I was like, okay, now she's actually crying, because she did start actively crying. And Thomas rolled over and was like, morning. And I'm like, no.
Not morning.
She's been screaming for the last 30 minutes and yelling, and you just slept right through her. Oh, I only just now heard her. Okay. Someone needs to get their ears fixed.
Yeah, I totally get that. Speaking of night routine, that was a huge struggle for us.
Especially getting them ready?
Kids, getting them to sleep.
Okay.
Because I always have nursed my babies to sleep or snuggled them to sleep when Maverick stopped nursing. And so we had talked about this before Quincy came. So we knew Quincy was coming, so I was trying to figure out how I was going to get both of them to sleep. Mm-hmm. Because Michael would always have a hard time just getting Maverick to sleep. He always just wanted me. Yeah. But now our new thing is Maverick has actually been starting in his room. Okay. In his own bed.
Oh, that's new.
That is very new.
I actually don't think you told me that.
2 days new.
Oh.
2 or 3 days.
Okay.
Yeah, very new.
Very new.
So Michael goes and lays down with him in there until he falls asleep. Mm-hmm. And then he'll sleep in there until probably 3, 4 in the morning. Okay. And then he comes into our bed.
That's kind of what my kids did. Damon more so. Mm-hmm. And he doesn't anymore.
Oh, okay.
For me, that them coming in thing, for Damon did not last very long. For Anna, lasted a very long time.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Okay.
And our nighttime routine is pretty similar.
Yeah. It helps so much the last few nights because he has full care of him. Mm-hmm. And then I'm able to get Quincy asleep and she doesn't have any distractions of her brother snuggling up to me and she's just
Mm-hmm. I know exactly what you mean.
So it helps a lot. And it feels like I didn't realize how much it was not bothering me, but how much it was making me feel overwhelmed until I realized when he took that away, I was like, oh, this is 10 times easier just to get the one asleep. Yeah.
Thomas is the one who takes over getting the kids ready for bed.
Okay.
And then we do a tuck-in where I'll go in and I sing each of the kids their own version of a song. Mm-hmm. Say, their I love yous, give them a kiss, hug, whatever. Damon, I do still nurse him on occasion. But usually I just lay down with him and I'll lay my head on his tummy because that's where he wants it. And then he'll just stroke my head.
Aww.
Until he falls asleep.
Sweet boy.
He falls asleep pretty quickly most of the time. And then Thomas usually has Ellie because she takes a very long time to go to sleep.
Yeah, sometimes Quincy does too.
And so I will be in there until Damon falls asleep or until he's ready to let me get up. It kind of just depends on the day.
Right.
If he's happy, because like they have a TV in the room and sometimes I'll let Anna turn a movie or a show on or something.
Yeah.
If he's content with the show, I can usually sneak away.
Right.
And then if he's not, that's when I stay with him until he falls asleep. And then I go in there and put Ellie down. And then Anna falls asleep kind of on her own.
Yeah. Yeah, it definitely helps having not to be the only parent that's putting the kids to bed.
Yes.
So much that I didn't even realize.
Yeah. Thomas's good nights with them is so short. And not even by like his own. They don't want more than that.
Oh, got you.
It's just a quick, all right, love you, good night. Give him a quick hug and a kiss. And then they're like, bye, Dad. We need Mom and we need her in here for an hour.
See, that's how it was falling asleep for Maverick. If he's tired enough, he'll just pass out. But there for a while, it was like he had to be snuggled up to Mom, and then he's like flipping over this way and flipping over that way, and gotta move my blanket this way, and I'm just like, go to sleep. Like, I've been sitting here for 2 hours trying to get you to go to sleep.
I remember Anna was like that. When she first started being in her own room, you were in there for hours trying to get her to finally go to sleep.
Yeah.
It was me, not literally anybody else. Me.
Right.
Being in there for hours. And when it was just her, I could handle it.
Right.
But then I got pregnant with Damon, and that was when I had to put a stop to it because it was so uncomfortable to sit on the floor or try to lay in her toddler bed.
Right. Yeah.
With her. Because that was before she ever had any kind of a big girl bed. And it was just I couldn't. It was the hardest thing.
Yeah.
And Thomas, when we had Damon and he transitioned to his big boy bed, because Anna has a loft bed, and it's a twin. And we have a twin mattress under hers, which is where Damon sleeps.
Right.
And when we first transitioned Damon there, Thomas actually did stay in there with him until he fell asleep. But Thomas also fell asleep.
Michael's fallen asleep a couple of times.
Yep.
In there with him.
Because they have decently comfortable mattresses.
Yeah.
They're memory foam.
Yeah.
And so, like, it's pretty comfortable.
That's the same.
And Thomas falls asleep. And then it's like, I'll be laying there with Ellie, trying to get her to sleep. Like, am I responsible for going and waking him up? Do I, like, try to sneak away from her? Do I just leave him there?
Right, yeah.
If he works the next day, I would have gotten up at some point.
To get him up.
And get him up. Yep. There was one day, and it was the day that, like, really made it to where we were like, we're done doing this. Where he worked the next day. When I was putting Ellie down, I ended up falling asleep. And he fell asleep in there, and his alarm was going off. And so I got up, I turned it off, I went into the room, and I was like, Thomas, you gotta get up. You gotta go to work. He's like, why'd you let me sleep in here?
Oh, gosh.
It's like, don't you
Don't
you get your tired ass attitude. Because he gets an attitude when he's tired.
Oh, Michael is the same. He is not, you don't wake that man up.
No, you don't wake up Thomas either. Like, he's not mean.
Right, yeah.
But he's got
They're
an
just
attitude.
grumpy, yeah.
Grumpy, man.
Yeah.
And I'm like, you can stop right there, sir.
Yep.
And he got up ready for work, and was like, so uncomfortable, my back hurts, my neck hurts.
Yep.
Like, okay, that's on you, dude.
Yeah.
I was like, we need to not do that anymore. And so we don't do that anymore.
Yeah. Michael's probably grumpy for a good 30 minutes to an hour of the morning.
Same with Thomas.
And then it's like he snaps out of it and he's like, all right, so what are we doing today? And I'm like, I'm in a bad mood now.
Yeah. If Thomas accidentally wakes up in the middle of the night, and I don't know what, for some reason Thomas perceives, like, if I go to, like, shake him, because he has trouble waking up to his alarm. And so I'll, like, shake him, or, like, if I'm too far away to reach him with my hand, I'll, like, gently kick him with my leg, or, like, grab him with my feet and try to, whatever. He perceives that as like hitting, punching, kicking.
Oh god.
And so he like, ah!
He's like,
Stop hitting me.
Yeah.
I'm like, I'm not.
Oh, that's so funny.
Bro, chill out. And then he'll be grumpy because he's perceiving me as hitting him. I'm like, dude, I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
I'm really not.
Right.
Like I tap, tap, tap.
On the mornings where Michael rolls over and he's just like, oh, good morning, guys. I'm like, it's gonna be a good day.
Oh, I feel that.
Yeah.
So as far as like diaper changes and stuff like that, how is it for you guys? And has it been different over time?
I feel like since we stopped cloth diapering, he is tenfold more willing to change a poop.
Okay.
Because spraying out a poop for some reason was atrocious for him. Like, does he still not enjoy changing a poop? 100%. He hates it. But if I'm like, hey, I think Maverick pooped. Would you mind taking this one? He's like, yeah, I can do that. Whereas before, he's like, really?
Did you guys ever try the disposable liners? You literally just take the liner out, throw that away.
No.
What?
No, we never did. I don't know. We just never did.
Because then that's kind of like combining disposables
That's true.
And cloth.
No, we never tried those.
They would be, if you ever consider going back to cloth, that would be something that I would recommend.
Yeah.
Because it's literally just like this thing that you lay down and you pick it up and throw that away.
Yeah.
And then there's no spraying.
Yeah, usually right now, if he's home with me, if I'm changing one of them, he's changing the other one. And that's how we kind of do things. Yeah,
that's kind of what we do too.
Except sometimes Maverick doesn't need to because he's older, so he doesn't pee as much.
Yeah.
Or as often, I should say.
Oh, Damon still does. But Damon is a water fiend.
So is Maverick, but I think he just like holds it for a while.
See, Damon doesn't. Damon's not even anywhere near potty training.
Yeah.
And so we're not there yet.
I think Maverick's, I keep saying he's close. I think I've said he's close since we started the podcast, but he's definitely in that transition phase.
We're starting to become more interested in it.
More interested. He starts to hide now when he wants to poop. He likes to pee outside. He will tell me, like, he'll just stand there and have like a blank look on his face. He's like, Mama, pee. So he's realizing that his body's doing those things. So, and then we'll go through a phase of a week where he wants to go potty on the toilet, and he will. And then we go through several weeks of
back in the diaper.
I want nothing to do with that toilet kind of a thing. So
yeah,
that's why I say he's close, because I feel like he's in that transition phase. And one of these days it's just going to click.
Yeah. Anna was 2.5 when she was fully potty trained. And so with Damon turning 3 next month, I'm like, oh, you're still not there.
I've heard boys take longer.
That's what I've heard too.
Yeah.
And so I'm not really that worried about it.
No.
Do I wish she was out of diapers? Yes, because this is
100%.
the longest I've had 2 in diapers.
Right.
Because Anna was almost 100%, or no, she was 100% daytime trained when we had Damon.
That's right. I remember
and
that.
it was just nighttime.
That's right.
And then she got in cast. And so we had to get back in diapers for a short time. But then when her cast came off, it was really easy to transition back.
Yeah. That would be so nice. Michael and I were talking about that, and we were like, can you imagine a world where we don't change diapers?
I know. That's like my biggest reservation for having any more kids.
More diapers.
Is the diapers. Yep.
Michael literally told me he would have 10 more kids if he didn't have to change a poop. And I was like, I'll save that in the bank for for when I want more kids. And you're like, no.
Be like, I'll change all
I'll
the poops.
change all the poops until that kid comes.
And then I will go back on my word.
Yeah. And then I'll be like, well, the kid's here already.
Like, I crossed my fingers. You just didn't see that. Too late, they're here. Can't put them back in.
Oh, that's funny. Yeah, no, we're pretty even on the diapers, I would say. I think it's in the past, like I said, with the cloth diapers, it was always a little bit, okay, I did more of the poops. And I think that was more so I didn't want to hear him complain about it.
That makes sense.
So, but he's pretty good about it. What about you?
I think it's always been pretty even as far as like actually changing the diaper. However, there used to be a lot of complaints with like a poopy diaper.
Right.
And him just not wanting to change them. Now he offers
Oh, okay.
for every diaper change, which is a godsend.
Yes. Yeah.
And like I said, things have drastically changed from when he and I first had Anna.
There's a long hair connected to you. That's probably my hair.
I don't know how it ended up in my hands.
I don't think. Oh, they can kind of see it.
It's just Mandy's hair stuck between these two fingers somehow.
And I have a
We're just
dog hair on mine.
Goodbye. All right. There's been that drastic change. So now he will offer, and like, you know, because we are doing cloth, we have to do the spraying off. Sometimes I'll be like mid trying to wrangle children, and I'll just put the diaper that needs to get sprayed off on the back of the toilet. He'll get home from work or something, start, you know, undoing himself. He'll go to the bathroom, and then I'll go to like spray it off in a little bit, and it'll just be done already.
Oh, nice.
And he won't have said anything.
Nice.
And I'm just like, oh, I love you.
Michael would spray it out, and every single time he'd be like, God damn it. And I'm just like, what? And he's like, there's poop everywhere. And I'm like, how? What are you doing that there's poop everywhere?
Thomas would suck at it too at first. And then he watched me do it once, and he's like, oh.
I've showed Michael
because I
so
would
many
put
times.
it so low in the toilet.
Yeah.
He was holding it up so high.
Yeah.
And like spraying it at like a 90. And so it would just, instead of spraying it this way so that it goes that way.
Right.
He would spray it at a 90 and then it would bounce.
Oh, I would come in and Michael would be like just holding it open, not folded, open.
Oh, God.
In the air and just like trying to spray it all off.
No,
like he would spray a dish.
What?
Yeah.
I think Thomas did the same thing a couple times. I'm like, what are you doing?
And I would show him and he's like, well, that's just not how it works for me. And I'm like, well, clearly this doesn't work for you either. And he's like, well, I just don't want to do it. We had so many arguments about it.
Yeah. When we first had transitioned to cloth diapers, our original agreement was that he didn't do poops. Clearly now that's changed.
Right.
And that was, for me, that was like a deal breaker. I was like, I really want to switch to cloth.
Right.
And because I had wanted cloth from the get-go, and we had just moved into a place that had in-unit laundry.
Right.
And so that was my only option, was take it or leave it.
Yep.
And I was like, I'm doing it, and I will transition you later.
Yep.
One problem at a time.
Yeah, our only stipulation with that is that I was the one who washed and folded them. He would change them, but I had to wash and fold them. Which that part didn't really bother me. That was probably the least bothersome part of cloth.
Just turn a show on and start doing it. Yeah. Thomas wouldn't do that at first either, and now it just is. Granted, we don't fold them anymore.
Oh, right. Because you have so many.
So many. And we go through so many so fast.
Yeah, you would just be folding.
All the time.
Every day.
And so we just make them as we need them. And right now, it's working.
Yeah, that's what we had started to do when we were doing both of them. When we tried to do both of them for cloth for that short little time, we were just chucking them in the, we have a, what is it called? I cannot think today of words.
A laundry basket, a shelf,
no, shelf.
Closet.
Thank you.
Shelf.
Couldn't think of the word shelf. We would just throw them into the shelf that we have them on, and then we would just grab them as we go and
yeah,
them.
That's kind of what we are doing right now too.
Yeah. So are there any, or yes, you already said this. So what are Thomas's specific chores or tasks that he does around the house?
So he is 100% responsible for dishes. And that's because I'm primarily in charge of meals. And so for him, I do the cooking, he does the cleaning part of that. He's also 100% responsible for cleaning the bathrooms and then taking out the trash.
Okay.
Those are the only things that he is solely responsible for. On the flip side, the stuff that I'm solely responsible for includes like bill pay, making sure that it's vacuumed, making sure the laundry is done, and that the bed is made.
Okay. Yeah, I think for Michael, we don't really have set things. They've just kind of happened that way. But he does all the lawn care.
I don't have a lawn, so
right.
Not a thing. Or else Thomas would probably be that too.
Yeah, he takes out the trash and the recycling and all that. And then he's typically in charge of the dogs. So he feeds the dogs. He makes sure that they're good. And then I do 95% of the laundry. I'm usually the one to clean the bathrooms, but sometimes we go back and forth on that. And I do all the bills. And yeah, I think those are like the general ones that each of us just do.
And then everything else
is just split. Whoever wants to do it. And like in the morning, one of us usually does dishes and one of us usually vacuums.
Yeah, that's what we're trying to get into. Because I prefer you're loading the dishwasher throughout the day. It runs overnight, and then you put the dishes away in the morning and then kind of repeat the process.
Yep. Yeah, that's how I like to do it too. Lately we've just been getting so backed up on dishes. I don't know what it is. We both are just like, I don't want to do that right now. Yeah. I'll do it later. And then later comes and we're like, I don't want to do that right now. So then it's like 2 or 3 days worth of dishes. And then we're like, okay, we have to. We're out of plates.
Yeah. And we actually reduced the amount of dishes that we have in the house. Because we used to because hoarders, people would just like give us their old dishes and we would just accept them. I'm like, you want some dishes? Sure. Could always use more plates. Yeah. Now we don't do that anymore. Right. I think we have 7 plates total. And those are like the big plates. We have like separate little plates for the kids.
Right.
And any more than that, and I feel like we would do dishes way less.
Right.
Because that's exactly what we did.
Yeah, because it's easier just to grab a new dish versus having to clean them and then use those ones.
Yep.
Yeah, I saw a thing where I think it was on Facebook, and the mom for the summer, she went to Walmart and they have like the colored plates, silverware, and cups. And she got one for each of her kids, different colors. And she said, these are your dishes for this summer. You are responsible for them. These are what you will eat your meals on. So
make sure you clean
for every meal, they have to then wash and dry their dishes. I thought it was a really good idea.
I love that.
Yeah. And then it also reduces the amount of dishes that she has to do because then all she has is just like the pots and pans that she's actually cooking in.
Yeah. I feel like all my kids right now are too young for that, but someday.
Right. I thought that was a really good idea.
Someday. I like that a lot.
Yeah. Which I kind of wish that we could do that as just adults. And I mean, we could. But if you only had one plate for you, one plate for Thomas, a fork, a spoon, a knife for each of you, and then same for the kids, and you only wash those dishes and use those dishes, of course, yeah, you're doing dishes all the time, but you also would only have the one dish. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like it's hard,
though. For silverware, that's also kind of unrealistic, especially because, like, oh, well, I need to scoop some butter. And
right.
Then it's like I have to immediately go and wash that thing.
But then it's not sitting there dirty.
I mean, yes.
I know. It's not realistic.
You know how many times I used the spoon? I actually did wash the spoon I used last night for cooking because, I mean, I use a different size spoon for, like, getting out butter out of the tub than I do for eating. Because I use the small spoons for eating because I don't like the way it feels on the corner of my mouth if it's a bigger spoon. Whereas I don't like using the little spoons to scoop butter because then I'm scoop.
Right.
They're just going to have to scoop up butter.
Yes. I understand that. It's not realistic, but I kind of wish in like an alternate universe that we all just had our one dish.
Yep.
And just washed it every time.
Yep. But that is why we reduced the amount of dishes that we had. And honestly, I would like to reduce it further, but I know realistically that would be chaos.
Right. I feel like there's a good happy medium because we also used to have probably like 20 plates. Like in our cabinet, it was almost to the top of the next shelf, which I mean, it's probably like a foot. So that's a lot of plates. Now I think we have a little under half when all the plates are clean. It's so much easier.
It's so much easier because like you got to remember too, you can't just have a plate for you and a plate for him because I mean if you have guests, what are they eating on?
Bring your own plate. It's a
BYOP.
Literally.
Great minds think alike.
Yep.
That was funny. Yeah.
That would be hilarious if every time you came over for dinner, I was like, don't forget your plate and your fork and your knife and your spoon.
And your cup.
And your cup.
Oh, you need a
And
bowl
for
this
your
time,
kids.
too.
Oh, that would be hilarious.
We're also having dessert, so make sure you bring one of them little plates.
Bring your dessert plate or you're going to have to wash your plate.
Oh, and a wine glass. We need all of those things.
That wouldn't work.
No.
It wouldn't be realistic.
Mm-mm.
But in a perfect world.
In a perfect world.
But yeah, I think for the most part, contribution in our household goes pretty well. I know that there's the stereotypical, like, the man does nothing. But
Yeah.
I don't think that's true for us.
Mm-hmm.
There's just some things that I like to think of it as, like, I have my strengths and he has his strengths.
Yeah. And
We
whereas
also
like,
have our weaknesses.
exactly. And in my house, that was the reality for a little while. And that was something that we really struggled with, was I didn't want that dynamic.
Right.
And he grew up believing that was what it was
The only
supposed to
dynamic,
be.
yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, his mom set up his future wife for failure, especially in today's society where a lot of people are starting to move away from that unless they're like, they grow up religious, which I'm not.
Right. Right.
You know, so I don't fit into that perfect dynamic, which I mean, his family made very clear that they didn't like that I wasn't religious when we first got together. So, I mean, maybe they did want him to get with a Christian girl.
Yeah.
And
I don't know what
failure.
you are not.
To them, I am.
Right. I don't know what kind of dynamic I would even say that Michael was taught. Because he wasn't taught, like, the man does everything. I think he was more, I mean, he was raised by his mom, grandma, and his dad, but they were all separate.
Yeah. I mean, so was Thomas's. But she still, even though she was the breadwinner and the homemaker, she still was like, find you a girl that'll just pamper you.
Weird.
She's also toxic as shit.
Well, yeah. We've established that.
Yeah.
I want to raise my son that he can help.
Yeah, that's what I want too.
Because I think, I mean, that's the best. And I think seeing our household, he sees that dad does a lot of things. He sees that mom does a lot of things. And while he may see right now that only dad's going to work, I'm not opposed to going back to work at a certain time. I'm just enjoying the time while my kids are little.
Yeah.
You know, so at one point, I'm sure he'll probably see mom going to work too. But I want him and Quincy to know that to find a partner that's going to equally contribute in some way. It doesn't have to be, I don't think it has to be equal tasks. It just, I think both people need to be giving 100% towards the relationship.
Giving equal value.
Right.
And that's going to look different for everybody.
Exactly.
For some people, you know, like we were saying earlier, there's different dynamics, and if it works for you, great. You know, for some people, that equal value is that he brings home a paycheck and then does the dishes.
Right.
You know, I don't think I'll ever personally fall into that line of a paycheck is the only thing that you need to make a relationship feel valued.
Right.
Nor do I think that, you know, on the flip side, somebody being the primary parent is value enough either. You know, I think that there's give and take on both sides.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think that wraps it up for today.
I think so too. We are a hefty amount into this, and my computer looks like it's about to die, so
it's a good time to close out.
Good time to close out. So yeah,
make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and tell us what your dynamic is.
Yeah, curious.
Yeah, if you have any hardships or if you have any tips on how you kind of separate the household.
And make sure you stick around for next week's episode on overwhelm.
Yes.
That'll be a fun one. Yes. And then if you need to listen to last week's episode on birthday parties.
Yes.
And presents and stuff and all that. Yeah.
All that jazz.
Yeah. We'll see you next week.
Yeah, we'll see you then.
Bye.